Hello and welcome, all of you. Welcome back to those of you who have been patrons for the first month, and welcome to those of you who are new patrons to this video tarot forecast for May. Please excuse me, I just have to say that before I start because I'm about to head out the door in a couple of hours to travel across the world, so I'm feeling a little bit all over the place. So if there is any hesitation or dithering, it's nothing to do with the reading and everything to do with me, and the cards will still come through true. And so with that, I'm going to start. I have shuffled the cards, and I have just with the three intentions that I always do, which is that it is relevant for everyone who comes to the reading, and that it is always for your greatest good and the greatest good of everyone and everything connected to you, and it is what you are ready to see. So without further ado, I am going to draw these cards with the three intentions that we have, which is to show, first of all, the foundation or the underlying theme of what it is that you're coming through in order to get to the present moment. And then the present moment being the kind of cosmic weather forecast of what it is that we are going to be dealing with as a prevailing theme throughout the month. And then the third card is going to be a tool that we can use so that you can make the most of what it is that you have and the gifts that you can bring and the strengths that you have, and also to work with things that are not so strong in you, so we don't leave those out at all. They can be incredibly powerful in order to make the most of what it is that we are working with weather-wise. So I've shuffled, and I'm going to cut the deck into three, and I'm actually going to take, I'm going to take from the central deck simply because the cards kind of winked at me from there. And I'm laying them out, and I'm just going to speak about them one by one as I did last time, with the intention that we'll be layering up a story as we go along. So this is the foundation of what it is that you are bringing into May. And it's something that, so in terms of foundation, it's something that you are bringing in, you've already experienced, or you're in the process of experiencing, which will connect then with the second card, which is that weather report that we're going to have. So this is more internal in terms of something like a characteristic or an experience that you have. And that is completion. So completion is the Four of Wands, and in this deck, I find it an incredibly beautiful card. It really is that sense of something coming to fruition. I see it very much in terms of a miniature version of the world in this deck particularly. Not so much with other decks, but for instance, the Rider-Waite-Smith is slightly different. But in this deck, it's, as you can see, there is a globe around the Four Wands. Except with this one, I like to see the globe as a bubble. It's this beautiful, cosmic, colourful bubble with this sort of film of rainbow over it. So it's not as solid, it's not as saturnine as the world. It's much more of a sense of completion that is energetic, that is to do with something that needs to now be sort of moved away from, not like Eight of Cups where you have to move away from it because it's a sort of heartbreak or it's dragging you down, but moved away from because this is really as far as you go with this particular thing. It's almost as if there's a part of you, whether it's conscious or not, that steps back from this particular form of creativity, whether you can see its tangible effects in the world outside you or whether it's a form of self-creation, and kind of steps back and says, great. For now, that's done. This leg is done. Now it's time for me to move on to the next thing. So there is a beauty in the symmetry of all of this. The four wands there with that circle around it. So there is this real balance in terms of also yin and yang. And I love the balance between the earth and I think this is, yes, water and the sky and the clouds. So this is. All the fours are pauses, so this is almost like, okay, that can be seen as a part of my work, which is now completed. But It's not the whole thing isn't over. It's an aspect of something, and the completion has been there because then you are continuing with a same theme, a similar kind of theme, but in terms of this particular aspect of that theme, you've given yourself a great foundation for what it is that's coming next. Fours are pauses, as I said, but they're also fairly early on in the numbered cards. So that implies that there is a lot more to go in terms. So if you see it in terms of the evolution of the cards, the ace being the spark of creation that we can then work with. It's a kind of Promethean fire. And then the two taking that fire and forging something with it. And then the three taking a risk and moving out into your own integrity and on your own path in order to get this thing to happen. And four, coming to some kind of waypoint where it's almost like in a game, there's an auto save. You don't have to go back anymore, but there is still a path, so you still have your task to continue. So that's the foundation for this month, which I think is a really wonderful one to work on. I haven't turned the other cards over yet, so we're now going to be working with the second card, which is the cosmic weather for this month. And thank goodness we had the Four of Wands. So we have the Ten of Swords here. Unsurprising, really, given what's going on in the skies this month. We have a lot of unpredictability happening. We have a lot of clashes, and we've got a particular configuration in the sky coming up where Uranus and Mercury are going to be meeting. So there is the unpredictability of the mind, but there can also be sudden insights as well. The good news with the Ten of Swords is that this is the fact that it's already happened. What is going on is the end of what it is that has been going on. So this has been going on for some time. It's to do with your mind. It's to do with what's going on in your mind. It's maybe to do with your beliefs. It could be that words have been exchanged, perhaps more than words have been exchanged, but it's very much based in the mind, even though the outlook or the experience of it may be also emotional, it may also be tangible, it may also be on a libidinal or energetic level. It's this is where the complexity is up here. So if you look at the card, then what we have here is I think that's what's written on the card, because I'm seeing it backwards here, is fear of madness. So there is something about something that has been that you've held to, a belief or an aspect of yourself, something you believe about yourself, that is in the process of being dismantled. And it may feel destabilizing to the point where this is the nightmarish vision of what you feel might be happening inside. Everything is upside down, everything's a little bit crazy, there doesn't seem to be much inside to hold to that feels safe or sane, perhaps, to a certain extent. This can be a card of insanity, but mostly it's the card of, oh my goodness, I'm going completely crazy, or this is crazy. And that's very much the astrology of the moment. But as I said, this is a 10. It's the end. So you've already been through what it is that you're going through, and the 10 is the zenith. It's the finishing point of that, which works very nicely then with the 4, because what you're dealing with there is a completion, and my sense of it is that the 10, when we experience it, is really the death throes of what it is that you're dealing with in the 4. And sometimes things can go out kicking and screaming. And but I think the most important thing to bear in mind is that they are going out. You know, they may be kicking and screaming, but very often in the psyche kicks up the biggest stink when we are reaching a breakthrough. And this is what feels like it's going on in terms of the weather, is that there is this point of breakthrough, but before the breakthrough is the breakdown. And that breakdown may be mild, and it may not be. It may feel less than mild. Because of Uranus and Mercury, it can feel pretty strong, and that's only one aspect that's happening this month. So when this happens, or if there is this moment of feeling like you're going bonkers, then or the world is going bonkers, know that this is something that is passing. It's the end of the line for a particular belief, a particular form of behaving within one's mind towards oneself or others, or maybe having that experience coming back at you. There was something else I was going to say about the 10, and I'm hoping that, well, if it's relevant, then it will come back. So yes, so this is what's going on right now. There's your foundation. There's your weather, and yes, I'm just going to speak a little bit about the Ten of Swords from my perspective, my experience of the Ten of Swords, just to, because I think a lot of people, when they see this card, particularly because Carl Röhrig decided to illustrate it very vividly, is that you look at it and you go, oh my God, no. And actually, that's a great response, because that's exactly how it's a reflection of what's going on in your mind about something else. So if you're latching onto that feeling of when you're looking at the card, then if that feeling comes again at you in another aspect of your life, know that it's because this card or that aspect is being mirrored by the Ten of Swords. So when you have that, then you know. And my own experience of Ten of Swords sometimes has been a release. It has been a moment of like, oh, well, that's done. I'm through now. I'm through to the other side. There is this sort of building, and then a sort of peace. And that very much, if you go to the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the card, is also there, with the figure lying on the ground, prone, with the 10 swords in their spine. But the hand is in a mudra. So it's in the mudra, I looked it up, I think it's happiness. And they are looking at the dawning sky. There had to be a clearing. There had to be a clearing in order to get this clarity. So it's a confusion and a complete overwhelm of the mind. And then suddenly, it kind of burns itself out. And then there's the clarity. And then you're back into an ace territory after the 10 of Swords. And you're able to carry on with something. So that is the cosmic weather, and here is the tool that you have to deal with the Ten of Swords. So not only have I given you a lot to be able to deal with now, we have the tool here in order to be able to deal with it. How beautiful. The Nine of Cups, happiness. This is often referred to as the wish card. And I know that a lot of people sneer at the idiomatic meanings of cards. There's been a lot of debate about that on tarot forums, as whether you can actually say, oh, this is the wish card. But I do say this is the wish card because look at it. I mean, how beautiful can you get? It's a moment of opportunity. I think it's I often like to see this card as sort of shifting into the vortex of something that's possible, but using your emotions to get there. It's a moment of happiness. It could be a moment of levity throughout all of the strife of what might be going on. And again, it might just be a small thing that's happening. The Ten of Swords doesn't have to be a complete debacle, the be-all and end-all of everything, but it is definitely the end of a line for a particular way of thinking about the world and of yourself and about yourself. And then the happiness here is about having that moment to get some perspective and some levity and to see things differently and to allow something different to come in. And in fact, I'm actually going to put these two together, because then you see the replacement of the swords along the top with the that beautiful sort of, it's almost like the vortex is wearing a headdress with a few hearts and just these various sort of coming together of different aspects. It's like a tapestry, and then with this beautiful energetic wall in the middle. It's almost wands-like, but actually we're dealing with the heart here. And then all of that madness in the 10 card underneath that crown is kind of transmuted in that vortex of the 9 of Cups. Now, what I find interesting is this. Oh, not that one. This one. Oh no, sorry. It's because the camera's reversed. I keep thinking I'm putting down the correct card. Look at the mirroring of these two cards. So there is something about the foundation that you've brought into May that is now being able to be transmuted or furthered into the Nine of Cups. So remember I said that the Four of Wands was a kind of ending, but it laid the foundation and then you moved on and the journey continued. Well, I think that the continuing journey is about what it is or who it is that you choose to be in the face of things that actually may look insane to the point of a bit ridiculous. Maybe it is that you choose to see the emperor for who he is, and he has no clothes, and he is naked, and that there is a ridiculousness to what's going on, and you are then able to shift out of that perspective of battle and inner fight and turmoil, joining all of the others who are along this, walking along the road of turmoil, and actually able to distance yourself from that, not to detach or disconnect where you're not present with your heart or your mind, but rather to see another perspective, and that is to be able to choose something that is that has some levity. So you take that path that is less walked in this instance, where and I think that the conditions are ideal for this, because the Ten of Swords can be that moment of release where everything gets so crazy that you can't hold there anymore. The mind just doesn't do that, and then you can shift into this idea of choosing something different. And I often say that the Nine of Cups has a whimsical quality to it, and I think that whimsy can be underestimated in terms of its power. It's very difficult when you are attacking yourself or being attacked to have that happen in a meaningful way when you are not seeing things at the same level as that other person or the level of your mind that is doing that. So the whimsy can almost sit back with arms crossed and look with a smile of amusement at what it is that's going on, whether it's with yourself or with someone else or with a world event. And so with the Nine of Cups, it is about reaching for something and making that wish. In fact, you might even want to make a literal wish. Why not? You've got a tool here. Here's the tarot showing you. There's your wish. What do you want to wish for? Do you want to have more of the same that you're having? Do you want something different? Do you even believe that there is something different that is possible for you? And perhaps if you don't believe that something is possible, then maybe this card here will help you believe that something different is possible. I would invite you to connect with the card, not just on an intellectual level, you're back in swords territory then, but at a heart level, and see if you can even connect just for a moment with the idea of what the Nine of Cups means, because it may feel sometimes quite a distant proposition to be able to embrace this. And the tarot is being clear that actually it is a lot closer than you think. So there you go, your tool for this month. I hope that you have enjoyed this video forecast, and any and all feedback is welcome, and please excuse my flusterings, and see you next month. Okay, bye.